All righty. I will call this Riverside Township Board of Trustees meeting to order. Please rise, and Trustee Carroll, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we are seated, why don't we just pause for a moment of silence for the officer who was killed in action. That's why the flags have been at half-staff this week, so. May he rest in peace. All right. Clerk Reyes, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Supervisor Wilt.
Present.
Clerk Reyes. Present. Assessor Sikowitz. Not here.
Not necessarily.
Oh.
And so trustees, and
Trustee Clark.
Present.
Trustee Heilenbach. Trustee Carroll.
Present.
then we have a quorum with 2 trustees and 1 voting supervisor at the present time. Thank you. The approval of minutes of the January 10th board meeting, I think, needs to be deferred because we don't have enough voting people that would not be abstaining to act on those. So those will be deferred one more time. We have minutes of the February 14th board meeting. What is your pleasure?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes of the 14th board meeting.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the minutes of the February 14th meeting. Do I hear a second?
I wasn't here on that meeting.
Oh, I'll second that. Then, oh geez, we don't have enough voters for that one either. We will defer those minutes as well then.
You know, I have some corrections to those. Should we defer those?
Why don't, we could, I think, no, good question. Why don't we defer the
Okay.
discussion, make your notes so that we can defer those as well.
Okay,
I'm
so we're-
sorry.
So we're deferring the,
We're deferring both the
January.
January and February meeting minutes because of lack of
Okay.
people present.
got it.
All right. How about March 7th? How are we doing on those minutes? I think we have enough people.
I don't think so. Well, do we?
Yes.
3.
Well, no, because you took the minutes again.
Yeah.
All right, we will defer those. It's a fun meeting. Okay. And we don't have minutes yet of March 9th, the special meeting. So,
Supervisor Wilt?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to move the grants up on the agenda from in between A and B on new business.
very well.
I'd second that motion.
I have a motion by trustee Clark, seconded by trustee Carroll, to move the unfinished business of grants up from unfinished business A to following new business A. Any discussion? Then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 3 votes in favor. All opposed? None. Motion is carried. Okay. Are there any communications?
Mike, I think you're over here today.
They moved you.
Just filling in holes. All right, were there any communications?
We have a few. Would you like me to read them? Would you like to read them?
If they're worthy of reading, go
Oh, we
ahead.
have a couple of thank you notes.
Okay.
They're worth
You can, yeah.
Okay. Dear friends at Riverside Township, thank you so much for your generous support and sponsorship of Riverside Junior Women's Charity. We are so appreciative to have you as partner in our work in our community. From all of us to all of you, thank you, thank you. Signed, the Riverside Junior Women's Charity.
Okay.
We also have a letter from Beds Plus that reads in pertinent part, Dear Ms. Wilt, we at Beds Plus Care wish to thank the Township of Riverside for your continued support, which has grown to $32,260 over the years, and for the most recent contribution of $5,000 on February 16th, 2023.
Thank you. Other than, oh, you have some more.
Yeah, we
Okay.
have two other quick ones. One is from the Liz Chilson, the Executive Director of the Riverside's Art Center, who also passes along her thank you.
Okay.
And then we have another thank you note from the Access to Care Group, which reads in pertinent part, on behalf of the Board of Directors and the staff of the Suburban Primary Health Care Council, I thank you and the members of the Riverside Township Board for your generous contribution to the Access to Care program. And
That's it? Thank you very much. Those will be accepted and placed in the record. Are there any public comments other than people here for a grant? Anybody have anything to bring to the board? Thank you. All of those of you who are guests tonight, please do sign the sheet at the door so that we can acknowledge your presence in the minutes that one of these days will pass. Okay. As for the supervisor's report, as you all know, it's been a very busy but a productive month. For general assistance, as of the 1st of March, all general assistance recipients have been raised to $600 per month from the $500. I've seen a lot of happy tears when they learned that, and a few have not yet had their appointment, so they don't know. Some clients are close to employment, but others have had more health and other issues come their way. So since COVID, since there was a COVID increase in SNAP benefits, which is now going away or even has gone away for many people, the general assistance recipients almost all take food pantry again. Some had stopped when they could buy more food of their choice with their SNAP cards. Regarding the bridge, I met with Attorney Louis Kankar along with Michael Hayes, our general counsel, regarding funding the bridge, and the results of that meeting are on our agenda tonight. Earlier today, I signed the contract for the project, and if they haven't scheduled other projects while we were putting together that contract and funding, I believe they will get started very soon. I'm working on the final pieces to apply for an Invest in Cook grant for part of the project, although even if we get the funds, we will likely have borrowed money by the time that is funded. It's not expected until sometime in July or August. I think we might have a better chance at some money from that program this year, since we have a smaller ask, having gotten a lower bid since we last applied. I need to submit that grant application by this Friday. Many attachments are as they were before, but I'm rewriting and updating the language for some of the sections, so the application has to be done in one session, as some of those things are. It will time out and go away if I don't do it in one session. Housing assistance is a question that comes up all the time as the first request from people seeking any kind of assistance from the township. The Community Resource Center also gets those questions frequently, so when a seminar from the Township Officials of Cook County Caseworkers section on the subject was offered last month, I went to it and took along Susan Bertulia, who's the morning person staffing the CRC. We did not learn all the answers, but we got a much better picture of the process and where to refer people. In terms of the building use, it has increased, and with that, I'm often the one who comes in on weekends to open up for a rental. If there are multiple events, the custodian comes in to clean and reset in between. My goal would be, since we are getting all these rentals, would be to save up for some building improvements, but some of the events still bring in very limited revenue. We don't charge community groups as much as we would do individuals. So I am happy that the community gets the use of the facility anyway. Regarding the trustee, all of you participated in the interviews for trustee, so we were all engaged in that, and we are welcoming the selected candidate tonight, later on the agenda. All candidates were notified the following day. Remember that we have a shred event on Saturday, April the 22nd, from 9 a.m. to noon at the Masonic Lodge parking lot on Forest here in Riverside. I hope that some of you members the board members can join us that day. It's been called to my attention that North Riverside, the village, has a shred event the same day. And when people tell me that, kind of shaking their heads, I tell them enthusiastically that how lucky they are to be able to get rid of twice as much stuff in one day. We have reserved a table at the May 11th Senior Fair in North Riverside, where Assessor Sitkowitz and I will meet the residents and give out some small items and information. That only runs from 10 a.m. to noon, so it's a short time period, so we should be able to manage that between the two of us. I signed the township up for the community table at the farmer's market as well. That'll be on July 19th. We can answer questions and give out some literature, maybe some small giveaways. And that runs from 2:30 until 7 p.m. So if any of the board members would like to staff that table for part of the time, I wouldn't complain. I believe the CRC will be there on another date.
You said July 19th?
July 19th is the date we pulled. Staff is pulling together the newsletter that we hope to mail at the beginning of April in time to publicize the shred event. We're gathering data right now, and that should be going out, as I said, by the beginning of the month. I suspect I may be forgetting something. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them, but that kind of summarizes what the activities have been in the office this month. Trustees' reports. Trustee Clark, do you have anything to report?
I just want to report, the senior exercise class continues to go well. And as I mentioned last month, Lobby Day has been changed to April 26th. And last Friday, I went to Springfield to help read the essays that high school kids wrote on what a township does and the future of townships to get a $2,000 scholarship. So that was very entertaining. I read 20 essays. And some got it, some didn't. But I did do that, so that's the end of my report.
Thank you for representing us. Trustee Carroll, do you have anything to
Nothing
report this
this
time?
time,
Okay.
Supervisor.
Thank you very much. Mental Health Board reports are in your packets. I don't have any answers to them. I'm sure that Trustee Heilenbach will be happy to explain any questions that you might have about what's going on with them. And with that, we will go to new business. And item A, we have a resolution for the appointment of a new township trustee to fill the vacancy. I will read that resolution. It is a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Township of Riverside, Cook County, Illinois, approving an appointment to fill a trustee vacancy on the Riverside Township Board for an unexpired term created by the passing of Leanne J. Blau. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Township of Riverside, Cook County, Illinois, as follows, that this board hereby approves the appointment of Matthew J. DeCassola of a certain address at North Riverside, Illinois, 60546, as Township Trustee for a term commencing on March 14th, 2023, and terminating on May 18th, 2025. All ordinances and resolutions or parts thereof in conflict herewith are hereby repealed. This resolution will be in full force and effect from and after the date of its adoption. And this would be adopted today, March 14th, 2023. Do I have a motion in support of that resolution?
So moved.
I will second that motion, Supervisor.
I have a motion by Trustee Blau, seconded by Trustee Carroll to approve, yes.
Trustee Clark,
What did I say?
I think you said Blau.
Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry. That's okay. I have a motion by Trustee Clark, seconded by Trustee Carroll, to approve this resolution. And I think we should have a roll call vote on this. Be Clark, Carroll, and myself.
Okay. Supervisor Wilt,
Yes.
Trustee Clark,
Yes.
Trustee Carroll.
Yes.
Thank you. That is, there are no other votes, so that is carried with 3 in favor and I will declare that resolution passed. And with that, we have an oath of office. Welcome, Trustee DeCassola. Please step forward, and our clerk will do the swearing in.
Okay. If you'll raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Matthew DeCassola,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of Township Trustee
the duties of the office of Township Trustee
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you would please sign that oath. The board welcomes Trustee DeCassola, who is experienced, right there is the official, yes, who is experienced in this position, having served this board at a prior time. And we welcome you to this board and look forward to our cooperation. A seat is ready for you, so please join us. Thank you for the support team for being here to celebrate. Very good. Okay. The next item on our agenda is therefore the movement of the grants. Those are farther back in your book if you're looking for them. The first grant is Aging Care Connections. If you would come up to the podium, just introduce yourself and give us just a really brief synopsis of who you are and what you're looking for.
Sure. My name is Desiree Scully, and I'm the Executive Director at Aging Care Connections. We are a non-for-profit agency since 1971. We focus on older adults and allowing them to age in place in the community. We offer a variety and a continuum of services. We do things like case management out in the community to sit there and assess all of the needs that that person might need and actually implement those services, like homemaker services, emergency alert, home-delivered meals. We also take a look at the whole family. So if there's a caregiver that also needs support, we have a caregiver support group for that caregiver and a variety of services for that too. The caregiver program has become extremely large because most people at some point in their life will either be a caregiver or need a caregiver. And the state and the federal government is realizing that, and so that is something that has become extremely large and is on the docket for the state of Illinois. So hopefully you will all vote for that act. I think it has just been given a Senate bill on Sunday. Basically because people who are caregivers burn out fairly quickly, especially family caregivers. So if we can support them and educate them and offer one-on-one counseling and support groups and things of that nature, they can actually do it much longer and much more effectively. So we offer all of those too. We also have a grandparents raising grandchildren support group, and actually we do things like pay for kids to go to camp. We buy them beds, we buy them backpacks and back-to-school tablets and things like that, because a lot of times what will happen is a grandparent will all of a sudden become the main caregiver because mom or dad is incarcerated, or they have died, or their addictive issues have taken over their life, and all of a sudden the child no longer has them to depend on, and they are living with their grandparents, and we are there to support the grandparents and, of course, the grandchildren. We have a congregate program for lunch that anybody is welcome to that is 60 or over. It's located at Salerno's Restaurant in Hodgkins, but it's open to everybody. We have actually 2 home-delivered meal programs. We have a special diet one, so if you're renal or diabetic or have cardiac issues, we can address that. Also, there's something new called a Top Box program, so if you're homebound but you can cook, we actually send you 40 pounds of food twice a month. So it's like frozen meats and then fresh fruits and vegetables and things of that nature if you can prepare things yourself. So we have this broad continuum of services to actually allow people to remain in their homes independently as long as possible. Also, what we have coming up is the Aging Well Month in May, and it is something that, to me, is a beautiful thing because I was a pioneer back in Oak Park when I worked for the Township Fair, and that is having local government and for-profit, non-for-profit agencies working together to respect and revere older adults in the community, and having all sorts of health and wellness programs and educational programs to sit there and allow some people to learn about the different services that are out there even before they need them, and things like, fitness classes and yoga and things like that are also offered. So it's a large variety of services and programs that we sit there and do for the whole month of May. So, and you also are part of that, and we have a brochure that's going out. It will be going out in the Tribune to 38,000 people, and we'll have 10,000 copies to distribute locally too. So, yeah. So
Very good.
that's it in a nutshell, but I have,
Thank you.
Any questions that you might have, I'd be happy
Thank
to
you.
address.
Trustees, do you have any questions?
No.
So the $5,000 isn't going to a specific program, it's going to a lot of programs, kind of in your general budget too?
So it goes to basically any of the programs. So right now, we have about 700 Riverside Township residents that utilize the services in a broad continuum of ways. And so if there's something specific that they need, we can sit there and tap into that money. So wherever it is that we need to underwrite whatever program, we can use that money towards those residents in that respect.
Any other questions? Then what is your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve the grant to Aging Care Connections.
Thank you. I have a motion by trustee Carroll. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion by trustee Carroll, seconded by trustee Clark, to approve $5,000 grant to Aging Care Connections. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then Clerk Reyes, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Wilt,
Yes.
Trustee Clark,
Yes.
Trustee Carroll,
Yes.
Trustee DeCostello.
Yes.
I hear 4 ayes and no nays. Therefore, it is approved, and congratulations, and we'll be sending the check.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And the next item is Best Buddies International.
Hello, my name is Adam Wilt. I am the State Director for Best Buddies here in Illinois. And we are a program that we really specialize in providing programs and services for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We have had an increasingly strong presence in Riverside Township. And again, that's been in part because of the township support. But what we do is we facilitate opportunities for inclusion and friendship, and really to address the social and economic isolation of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And so we do that in a few ways. The most common and probably the most prevalent in the township is through our one-to-one friendship programs. And those programs include chapters at Riverside Brookfield High School, Hauser Junior High, as well as Central Elementary School. And those programs, through them, we have clubs at each of those schools. That Best Buddies has a club, and we facilitate one-to-one friendships for people with and without intellectual and developmental disabilities. And those clubs work really well with a lot of the other programs within schools. You may have seen also at when they have the Pack the Place nights at Riverside Brookfield High School, the Best Buddies Club is usually a strong presence and cheering on a lot of the participants who are part of our program and part of our friendship programs. We also have adult friendship programs, and that's an area that we've been really working to grow coming out of the pandemic, especially because there has been a lot of social isolation for people with disabilities, and really one-to-one friendships are such a crucial aspect of anybody's is not just physical well-being and happiness, but mental health. And so that's an area where all of those things really come together to provide great opportunity for people with disabilities. In addition to that, in Illinois, we have a jobs program as well. That's a program we would love to also expand in the township in the future. But what we work for is opportunities for people with disabilities to have integrated and competitive employment in the community. So not isolated from population, but really part of not just the company that they work for, but part of making that company a better place. And so that's a program that we've had a lot of success with, and we're continuing to grow that program as well throughout Illinois, but is definitely available, and want to say it more than anything since we're on TV and everything here, but really to promote that there are a lot of opportunities for people with disabilities that Best Buddies helps support. The request that we have is for $5,000, and in the past, I did include the sponsorship deck for our Friendship Walk. The funding that has been provided from the township grant is general funds, and so that goes towards our general fund. It's not specifically allocated, and in the past, because of the opportunity to show the township support on the event T-shirt, as well as with some presents to our event participants, there's no extra charge with it, but the allocation with that has been allocated to the Friendship Walk in the past, but those funds do help support our programs and continued growth of those programs in Riverside Township.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Actually, just one. When is your Friendship Walk?
That's a great question. It is on Saturday, April 22nd, and that takes place at Soldier Field. And so we'll have people from throughout Chicagoland attending that event.
So it's an overall.
It's a Chicago area event. We also do have an event in Central Illinois in Normal on the 29th of April, and we are having more of a community-based event actually in Champaign as well this year on the 20th of April. So our presence has grown throughout the state. Our marquee and flagship event in Illinois is the Chicago event at Soldier Field.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you're asking $5,000 to go into the general fund.
Yes, and that supports that. So really the thing that I like to really, and as with a lot of agencies, the output of our programs is really the output of our staff, and being able to provide services, provide programming, provide other educational and social opportunities. And so really for us, it's not paying staff salaries, but really helping create bandwidth for them. We do have other sources of funding that cover a lot of those things, but for us, this makes it so that we can have more of a presence at those schools in person, especially as schools have opened up. We've also been working to expand our presence within the schools of the district, so we would like to expand those. And as I mentioned, one of the things that we have been looking at and working on is social opportunities for our citizens, which is the Adult Friendship Program. And for us, really an area that we're looking to invest in, and we'd love to do something in Riverside Township in terms of an activity and social activity is to help foster that program as well. That's a program. We don't have general specific borders when it comes to our programs, but we do target to be able to have activities, and really what brings people together is having the opportunity to have those functions and that are fun and engaging, because friendship and inclusion obviously needs to be facilitated for people who don't necessarily have those opportunities normally.
And I note that you have 9 adults in Riverside Township in your citizens.
Yes, and I have not listed that in the past, but that's something that has grown actually in the last year. So we haven't been keeping that data quite as much and tracking that. We just got a new database though, so that system is tracking that. So I will make sure that I continue to monitor that.
So the sponsorship would be additional money, or
No,
are you
the
asking
sponsorship,
us to?
this has been part of the sponsorship. That's just been how it's been allocated. It would be, if it doesn't have to be allocated to sponsorship, The only really downside of if it's not sponsorship, we wouldn't include it as part of our Friendship Walk platform, which is our most inclusive event in terms of an event each year. So it includes T-shirt and things like that, just because it's under that umbrella. But the funds are, as I mentioned, general funds for our Best Buddies mission, and so they do not have to be allocated that way. But that's just been the pleasure of the board in the past.
It's a bonus for us because our logo does appear on the shirts then, is that correct?
Yeah, we're gonna have the shirts anyway. It's just really it's a coding thing in our system.
So I would think we'd want our logo on the shirts. So I'm not sure how to make the motion. Is it,
Well, the motion,
would it just be to grant the $5,000 or ask for part of that to be the sponsorship to get our logo?
Really, the $5,000 has just been coded, and usually there's just the additional form that is included in that sponsorship deck. If you complete that, then we'll make sure that it's included as part of the Friendship Walk package. But it would be the same way that the donation
so it would be a
would
grant in the form of a sponsorship.
Exactly.
Okay, so how should the motion,
Simply to approve the grant of $5,000 in the form of a sponsorship for the Friendship Walk,
okay?
right?
Yeah, I think that's sufficient.
I would like to note that I'm going to abstain on this because of the family relationship with the state director. So,
Adam, you said
Yes.
that you're thinking about expanding into schools. Is that in, by any chance, the other two elementary schools, Ames and Blythe? Or is that going to be like more, because I see that the most that you have is the junior high.
So, yeah, so actually right now we have the most at the junior high. Some of that has also been, and I will say, these numbers, they're an improvement from last year, so I didn't go into it. But one of the challenges we have too is with our new database, our data entry has not been as great as everybody hasn't fully adopted it yet. So a lot of times, a lot of our memberships tend to be logged when they're individuals who are in the one-to-one friendship. Those are the ones almost always logged quickly into the system. We do have a lot of members who are associate members, so there is likely some of those members who aren't listed in these numbers too, who are part of the chapter, but they're not paired in a one-to-one friendship. Usually those are people without intellectual and developmental disabilities who are looking to eventually be paired, but usually it depends on the enrollment within each school district. We have had programs at each of the chapters actually at Hauser for about 5 or 6 years, about 6 or 7 years at least. And I know it's been about 4 years that we've had a presence at Hauser. Our programs range through all age groups though, so like elementary
No, I mean,
schools.
I think it's a great idea. I just didn't know if you were
going to go to the other
go to the
element.
other
We would love to, yes.
schools or.
So the biggest challenge has been actually Central just got started not long before COVID. So getting them going took a little bit more time, and really for us, it's finding the right advisor within the school to help champion it. So
I mean,
each school does. So yeah, if we can find somebody, that
I
is our
think
goal to be in all of those
the
schools.
Blythe PTA would, I can't imagine they wouldn't be interested in this.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And also even the schools that maybe serve people in the township but are not physically located in the township, those are great schools too. So we're always
Okay.
working to build those programs, and yeah, that would be on our radar, and a great opportunity, especially our elementary school programs. One thing that we find great about them is it's such an early age in shaping the way people think, and become more inclusive of people with disabilities. So often our strongest chapters in middle school and high school are schools that had feeder programs at a younger age.
Yeah,
So yeah, we that's definitely on our list for sure.
Adam, so if you were involved in this program, say at Hauser, does that then, do most Hauser students then continue working with this when they're at our?
A lot of them do, yes. Though the biggest thing that I would say probably changes when it comes to involvement is typically a lot of our students do end up being involved at a later age. There are a lot of other extracurricular events available at Hauser than there would be at RB than they are at Hauser, and so sometimes those schedules mean we have people who are involved in the chapter, but maybe not as actively involved because they have those other commitments. So that's really the barrier. But one of the things that's really for our program, we don't look at just the impact of the people who are members of the chapter, but really what those members are doing. Actually, a couple of years ago, Riverside Brookfield High School was a shining example, and we recognized them statewide for the way that they used technology to really promote Best Buddies and inclusion within their chapter. And so that's one of the things we also look at, is not just looking at the chapter, but how they impact the school community as a whole. And so a lot of times, even though someone may not be a member of these programs, they're seeing the impact of Best Buddies because they're attending Best Buddies events. They're seeing a lot of the promotions and things that those chapters are doing to promote inclusion and really trying to promote inclusion of people with disabilities within the school. So it's really about not just changing the way that people think who are members of the chapter, but really changing the communities that they're a part of, which is the entire school.
Okay. Then I would entertain a motion regarding this, this grant.
I'll make a motion to grant Best Buddies the motion for $5,000 for the Riverside grant, Township grant.
I have a motion by trustee Carroll. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by trustee DeCassola. Any discussion? Then this is an expenditure, so if Clerk Reyes would please call the roll.
Supervisor Wilt,
Abstain.
Trustee Clark,
Yes.
Trustee Carroll,
Yes.
Trustee DeCosta.
Yes.
I hear that carried. So congratulations.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your continued support of our programs and friendship and inclusion for all people.
Thank you. Okay. Then on to the next item of business, which is a resolution to appoint a deputy clerk. I have that.
I'm going to find it.
Yeah, here it is. Here it is, in case you're missing it.
All right. Shall I read it into the record?
Yes, please read it into the record.
Okay, we have a resolution of the Board of Trustees, Township of Riverside, County of Cook, authorizing the appointment of a deputy clerk. Whereas Section 75-45 of the Township Code authorizes the Riverside Township Clerk to appoint one deputy clerk when authorized by the Riverside Township Board of Trustees, and whereas the Township Clerk desires to appoint Andrew Lutha as Riverside Township Deputy Clerk as an at-will employee, and has requested that the Riverside Township Board of Trustees authorize said appointment regarding same. Now therefore be it resolved by the Supervisor and the Board of Trustees of Riverside Township, Cook County, Illinois, as follows. Section 1, pursuant to Section 7545 of the Township Code, the Riverside Township Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the Township Clerk to appoint Andrew Lutha as Riverside Township Deputy Clerk and as an at-will employee. Section 2, the Township Board authorizes the Deputy Clerk to perform all acts and duties authorized by Section 75-45 of the Township Code, subject to the limitations and requirements of said Section 75-45, and to perform such other duties as may be assigned by the Township Clerk and authorized by law. Section 3, severability. The various provisions of this resolution are to be considered as severable, and if any part or portion of this resolution shall be held invalid by any court of competent jurisdiction, such decisions shall not affect the validity of the remaining provisions of this resolution. Section 4, repeal of prior resolutions. All prior ordinances and resolutions in conflict or inconsistent herewith are hereby expressly repealed only to the extent of such conflict or inconsistency. Section 5, effective date. This resolution shall be in full force and effect upon its passage and approval. And that's it.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve such
So moved.
resolution. I have a motion by trustee Clark to approve this resolution regarding appointment of a deputy clerk. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion by trustee Clark, second by trustee Carroll, to approve the appointment of a deputy clerk, that being Andrew Lutha. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then Clerk Reyes, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Supervisor Wilt,
Yes.
Trustee Clark,
Yes.
Trustee Carroll,
Yes.
Trustee DeCostello.
Yes.
Then motion is carried. Thank you. And I don't think there's any backup for this, although I thought I shared it. So I just want to bring to our attention and to put it on a future agenda, the discussion of the clerk's attestation for bill payments. As you know, there was a change in the law, or there was an addition some time ago. At the time, our legal counsel advised that we could simply, there we have, it was in the Township Perspective recently, an article on it, but that we could simply utilize an attestation, blanket attestation for all of the warrants as they're approved, which is what we've been doing. But as you can see, Toy takes a little different view of it. If you've read the Perspective, they really do feel that every check should be countersigned. That could be rather complicated, so I'd like to put this on an agenda for a committee of the whole to figure out exactly what we can do. They do suggest that a stamp could be utilized, and if there is a deputy clerk, there could be authority to do that, but I would like to have discussion of that before we approve such action. So if I can have the approval to put that on the agenda, perhaps for our next committee of the whole, to bring to a board meeting. What do you think?
Do you need a motion for that, or do we just want to say yes?
I'd like your approval. I don't know if I need a motion for it.
I don't think you need a
so.
formal motion. You can
But I just
poll
wanted to
everyone or
bring
get
that to
their-
your attention before I bring it to a committee meeting. Okay, and on that subject, I'm not sure if we'll have a committee of the whole at the next month, because it falls on the same day as Election Day. This room would be used at that time for a polling place, but we could meet in room 30 upstairs if necessary. So let me know your thoughts on whether to meet that day. And on to item D. We have a list of budgetary transfers to be made to bring our current budget into balance after some unexpected expenditures. So we have two different appropriations resolutions for that transfer. The first is for the general funds, and we would be moving, so it would be to move from the following general town fund items. It would be from building, the sum of $15,400, from building maintenance, the sum of $2,500, from printing and publishing, the sum of $2,500, from town programs, the amount of $2,000, and from the website line would be $2,000. And those funds would be used to be added to the following funds: for equipment maintenance, $20,400, for township senior citizens, $2,000, and for utilities, $2,000. That equipment maintenance, you remember I brought up that we had some boiler issues, and that was a 15,000 plus item to be repaired, and then there have been some other maintenance items that ran up, so that would be the first addition, and that would mean that the budget items, compared to what the budget said, would be as follows. Building would then be $259,600. Building maintenance, $22,500. Printing, publishing, $9,500. Town programs, $108,000. Website, $2,000. Equipment maintenance, $40,400. Township senior citizens, $22,000. Utilities, $11,000. What is your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve the budgetary transfer of those items, Supervisor Wilt.
Thank you. I have a motion by trustee Carroll. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a second by trustee DeCassola. Again, we've been looking at the old budget recently, and are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, then may I have a roll call of voting members of the board?
Supervisor Wilt,
Yes.
Trustee Clark,
Yes.
Trustee Carroll,
Yes.
Trustee DeCosta.
Yes.
And that motion is carried. The other budgetary transfer is for the assessors division, and that would be a transfer of $50 from operating supplies to office supplies. Very simple, $50 from one to the other, and that would leave the adjusted appropriations as $100 under operating supplies and $300 under office supplies. What is your pleasure?
I make a motion that we approve this budgetary transfer.
The motion by trustee Clark, do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by trustee Carroll to approve the transfer of funds within the assessor's budget. I'm sorry, this was a general assistance budget, I said assessor. Under the general assistance fund, $50 from operating supplies to office supplies. Any other discussion? Hearing none, may I have a roll call?
Supervisor Wilt,
Yes?
Trustee Clark,
Yes.
Trustee Carroll,
Yes.
Trustee DeCosta.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Okay. The next item, and by the way, if anybody is finished with their work and is not interested in staying, you're welcome to go. You don't have to be a captive audience. Okay, next item is the adoption of the annual town meeting agenda. This has to be approved at a meeting in advance. It is the standard annual meeting agenda. There were no other items presented from the public for the agenda. So we would have, this agenda would then also be published in the public notice. So what is your pleasure?
Supervisor, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed Riverside Township annual town meeting agenda for April 11th.
I have a motion by trustee Carroll,
Second.
seconded by trustee Clark. So I have a motion to approve the agenda with simply a welcome, call to order, pledge of allegiance, election of a moderator, oath of moderator, approval of the minutes from the prior annual town meeting, new business, township reports, setting of the date for the next annual town meeting, and adjournment. And that will be noticed. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. We have one special event request. You have that. It is for July 29th, which is a Saturday, up to 50 people for a celebration with close family from 3 p.m. and for setup at 1. And this is for your approval because there will be alcohol served This would have to comply, besides your approval, it would have to comply with our requirements of insurance, and therefore, it is up for your discussion.
I make a motion that we approve the special event request for July 29th, 2023, as long as they have all their paperwork and
Okay.
their proper insurance.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve this special use request. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second to approve the special use for the 29th of July, 2023, so long as they have all of their paperwork and insurance in place. Any discussion? Hearing none, then please call the roll.
Supervisor Wilt,
Yes?
Trustee Clark,
Yes.
Trustee Carroll,
Yes.
Trustee DeCosta.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, we are on to approval of the alternate bond authorizing ordinance for the swinging bridge. And I would ask Mr. Hayes to present this particular ordinance.
Thank you, Supervisor Wilt. So I think it was maybe 2 or 3 meetings ago, we talked about some of the funding options that were generally available to fund the pedestrian bridge project that's been upcoming and we've discussed. And one of the primary options we talked about was general obligation bonds, alternate revenue source. And as Supervisor Wilt said, we have just come to terms on the contract for the work itself that had been bid out, and now obtaining the funds for that is obviously the next important step here. So in issuing the bonds that are covered by the ordinance, you're authorizing the township to borrow the funds for the bridge project, and in this case, up to $500,000 is being approved, which is an amount, right, that we've discussed the township just doesn't have otherwise. And the township is then paying that back over time. The benefit or the draw of these types of bonds is that the township is only obligated or authorized to extend these as a tax, as a backup to paying off the debt, right? So if the township has the funds to pay the principal and interest annually that comes due on this loan, it doesn't have to extend the taxes on its levy. But the taxes, you're authorized to do that, though, as a backup if the funds are not otherwise there. There is a statutory process that requires you to go through, this as part of issuing the bonds. The statute itself is the Bond Issue Notification Act, and this is essentially step one, all right? This isn't everything here tonight. This is the first ordinance that you need to pass. Next, there would be a public notice and a newspaper publication of what you're doing, assuming you do pass the ordinance. There'd be a public hearing, likely before the meeting in April, and then there would be a final ordinance, assuming everything else falls into place, probably at your May meeting. So it's about a 2-month process in total. And again, this is just step one of that. But we did have a meeting with Vince Kankar, who's an attorney we've worked with closely with other local government clients, and he's an expert in these types of bonds, and advised us on the process, and is going to see it through with us. And I think we all agreed that this is probably the best option to fund the project at the amounts we're talking about. So subject to any questions or further discussion, it would be in order for a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-2, and I think you could, to waive the reading.
If we adopt this, then do we have to get signatures for a referendum?
There is no required referendum with these types of bonds.
Okay.
But there is a period after you pass the ordinance that electors of the township, if a certain number of them, a sufficient number of them were to sign a petition, could force you to take the issue to a referendum. So it's referred a backdoor
Right.
referendum.
Okay.
So it is not required, but in that, And even in Mr. Kankar's experience, that is not something that typically happens. And the amounts we're talking about here, even if you did have to levy a tax,
905 people would have to sign.
that's the number of
Petition.
electors that would have to sign the petition to force,
905 people would have to sign
to force it to referendum.
to force
To
it.
force us on the referendum.
Correct.
But that sometimes doesn't happen.
It almost never
Yeah,
happens.
but almost never happens.
Uh,
Okay.
And maybe Vince even said never happens.
I think he said, he's never seen it actually happen.
And he's
so.
been practicing,
Because it's just a contingent
Yeah,
possible
okay.
levy,
and I think we did the math at our meeting, and even if you had to extend the levy and it affected the taxes, you're talking in the tens of dollars, I think, on everyone's tax bill
right.
to
It
cover
was-
this project.
It was something like $7 per $5,000 of a tax bill. So if you had a $15,000 tax bill, it might be $21.
And again, that's just as the backup,
Yeah,
the tax levy.
okay.
That's not a guarantee that you
That-
have
right.
to do that.
So that may never come to pass, especially if we start getting our tax money.
And the fact that you have an authorized tax levy as backup, I think also helps with the financing and the cost to the township in terms of paying the bonds back, right? Because there's a mechanism to
The
do that.
rate
So
for 'em.
there's something behind the bonds in terms of guaranteeing repayment, so, it's not unfunded. So, all the options looked at, I think we all agreed that this was the best option.
Least painful for everyone.
Yes.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion that we pass ordinance number 2023-2.
I'll second.
I have a motion by trustee Clark, seconded by trustee Carroll, to authorize the issuance, for an ordinance authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $500,000 general obligation bonds, alternate revenue source bonds, Series 2023 of Riverside Township, Cook County, Illinois. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Wilt,
Yes.
Trustee Clark,
Yes.
Trustee Carroll,
Yes.
Trustee DeCosta.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Thank you. The list there, that we would provide that. If anybody inquired and asked for that, that is why we have that ordinance, that list here for people, a petition sheet. Thank you.
And as mentioned, that part of the process is now that you've passed the ordinance, you publish it in the newspaper, what you're doing, so that, it's out there.
And that
And
is
that's-
also right in your packet, how it would be published. Mr. Kankar has been kind enough to draw all the papers that we need up, and I provided a calendar previously as to all the different steps, so we will be following that calendar. Very well, thank you very much. The next item is the presentation of the 2023-2024 Township Budget Draft. I have, since our meeting, plugged in the numbers that I received from the Mental Health Board, which they will be moving to approve tomorrow. So what we would be doing tonight is simply authorizing this budget for inspection. And so it would be available, we will publish that it's available for inspection for the next 30 days. And then, because we don't have 30 days before our next board meeting, it's the 14th, and our next meeting is on the 11th. Therefore, we need 30 days, and so I would ask that we then schedule the hearing, if there's any questions on the budget, for the, prior to the May meeting, just before the May meeting, so at 6:45 on that day. So can I have a motion to approve this budget draft for inspection?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget draft for inspection.
I have a motion by trustee Carroll. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion by trustee Carroll, seconded by trustee DeCassola, to approve this budget ordinance draft for inspection for the next 30-plus days. Any discussion? Hearing none, could I please have a roll call vote on this as well?
Supervisor Wilt,
Yes.
Trustee Clark,
Yes.
Trustee Carroll,
Yes.
Trustee DeCosta.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Thank you. Next is the approval of the warrants. You have them in your packets.
I move the board authorize and ratify the payment of the bills as identified on the general warrant, March 14th, 2023, in the amount of $26,546.92.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion by trustee Clark, seconded by trustee Carroll, to approve the general warrants in the total amount of $26,546.92 for March of 2023. Would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Wilt,
Yes.
Trustee Clark,
Yes.
Trustee Carroll,
Yes.
Trustee DeCosta.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
I make a motion on March 14th, 2023, that the board ratify and authorize the payments of the amounts indicated on the following warrants. Utility warrant, $2,500.19. Payroll warrant, $19,734.47. Health warrant, $244.63. Grants, $17,931. General assistance, $8,129.89. Township radio players, $200, and food pantry, $60.50.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve those warrants. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion by trustee Clark, seconded by trustee Carroll, to approve the following warrants. Utility warrant, $2,500.19. Payroll warrant, $19,734.47. Health warrant, $244.63. Grants warrant, $17,931. General assistance warrant, $8,129.89. Township radio players warrant, $200. And the food pantry warrant, the amount of $60.50. Are there any questions? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Wilt,
Yes.
Trustee Clark,
Yes.
Trustee Carroll,
Yes.
Trustee DeCosta.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And if you look at the statements of revenues and expenditures, anywhere where you see that things are out of balance, the motion that we made earlier this evening will balance all those accounts back out, those that might have gone negative. What is your pleasure?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion by trustee Clark to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee DeCassola in fine form for his first meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion is carried.
You press
Thank you.
J.